So the green blue ocean, this is a term that I coined or that I create 5 years ago when we started Green Monday. I think most of you are familiar with the concept of blue ocean, right? It means a new market, something that is untapped, is something new, and creating something that people didn't even know they need, but once you show it to them, they figure, hey, I've been waiting for this for a long time. But why I call it, or why we call it the green blue ocean, is that with green and sustainability and health and all these good things that we talk about, too oftentimes we look at them simply from a social standpoint, from academic research, from a not-for-profit standpoint, and say, hey, we should do less of this and do more of that. But to me, business is a huge engine that can really empower people to change. Just like what Alexis said earlier, which is how do we make the right choice, the easy choice? And technically that is pretty much summarize what we are doing with Green Common. To me, the idea why plant-based food, now on one hand, we need to educate people why we should reduce meat consumption and increase plant-based. But on the other hand, why plant-based cannot be prevalent, cannot be popular? There are 4 major things that limit the growth of that. Number one, it is a lot of people perceive it is not nutritious enough. So you cannot get enough protein, you cannot get enough nutrition from a vegetarian or vegan diet. So that's one of the limitation. The second one is it simply doesn't taste good. A lot of times, if you say 10 years ago, like I have been vegetarian for 16 years, and there were times when I invite people for dinner, and then they would eat before the dinner. Because in their mind, having a vegetarian meal with David means that it's going to be a very unsatisfying experience. So it took a lot. I lost a lot of friends, by the way. Yeah, I'm glad you come to support, by the way. So the second one is it's not tasty enough. So not nutritious, not tasty. The third one is it's not convenient. For a long time, my family, when we had to go shop for plant-based ingredients, we go to North Point to buy this, we go to Kwun Tong to buy that, we go to Chun Wan to that particular shop to buy that particular ingredient, and that's all. And I think a lot of people who live in Hong Kong, particularly the ones who have been practicing a plant-based diet, can tell you the same experience. So it's not convenient. And finally, just not enough knowledge, not enough information to educate them that actually there are so many options out there, particularly with all the great innovations that come up, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years. So with Green Monday, my idea of this social venture, and this is something that we drew up from 2012, not from like 2 weeks ago, is that it needs to be a social enterprise, or in fact not one social enterprise, but a group of companies or a group of entities that address the different areas in order to facilitate behavior change. So the first part that most people know, of course, is Green Monday itself, which is the movement and the advocacy arm. So today, even today's events, is part of that education and part of that advocacy is we need to share knowledge. We need a lot more people to understand what is happening with the planet today, why it is different from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and what do we need to do going forward. So that's the not-for-profit side. But on the for-profit side, we must create solutions. We must make the right choice the easy choice. That is why the Green Common needs to exist. And that is why we also create Green Monday Ventures, which is a venture impact investment fund that work with and invest in companies that also are thinking along the same line in order to create possibilities, ideas, solutions to facilitate this change massively on a global scale. But regardless of which arm we are talking about, venture investing, Green Common, or foundation, at the end, we are trying to address the same issue. And that is, how can we become a global change maker? For what? For sustainable good, for sustainable common good. Good for the planet, good for ourselves, And for the people who also care about animals, good for all beings, basically. That is the vision of Green Monday. Now, these are the basic information that we have been talking about for 5 years. So I believe most of the audience here probably know this pretty well by now. Eating meat is one of the most ungreen thing or most unsustainable thing that you can do to yourself and to the planet. We talk about feeding 9-10 billion people by 2050. And the planet simply doesn't have that resources. Now, we will have 9 billion, 10 billion by 2050. But as of 40 years ago, 1970s, this planet was only supporting 4 billion people. It wasn't that long ago, which was basically our parents' generation. Our parents or our grandparents, our planet was only between 3 to 4 billion. Today we have 7. And the way we are living, of course, is much more extravagant and much more demanding from a resource standpoint than how our parents and how our grandparents live. Now, with all the different things that are unsustainable, food, particularly meat industry, is actually the elephant in the room. Livestock produce more carbon footprint than all transportation combined. It is also extremely water intensive and land resource intensive. Simply by us shifting, I'm not asking people to convert. We never ask anyone to convert to become a vegan. We say shift the ratio of what you eat. Just by doing that, you can do a lot of good for the planet and for our future generation. Now, the other part, of course, is health. This is going to be a repetitive theme throughout the day, right? Because these issues are all connected. All these problems that people have with health, we eat ourselves into these type of problems. We eat ourselves into that type of disease. So that's why WHO last year, about this time, issued a report that processed meat, such as bacon, such as sausage, such as Spam, these are, in terms of the level of hazard of causing cancer, is the same, which is also the highest degree of hazard as tobacco. So I think it's common knowledge that tobacco is not good for us, but it's definitely not common knowledge yet that meat, particularly processed meat, is bad for us, as bad as tobacco. Now, that also has a huge social and economic implication, because when people get sick, obviously it involves healthcare costs, either on ourselves or on our whole community, on our whole society. So there was a research just to say that if the world shifts to a vegetarian diet, we can prevent 7.3 million premature death, and also can save close to $1 trillion of cost saving in terms of healthcare. Now, with all that health and environmental implications, of course, a lot of people in the world are making dramatic changes, both from a government standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, and from an individual standpoint. So what you see here are just some of the headlines within the last 2 or 3 months. This is not something that we have been archiving for 5 years or 10 years. These are all very recent. So the German government, particularly the Ministry of Environmental Protection, just set a great example that in all future government occasions that involve the Ministry of Environment, there will be no meat and no seafood served. That is not from the entire German government, but all the activities involving the Ministry of Environment. In Portugal, it is becoming a law that says in all public areas, whether these are hospitals or schools or cafeterias, every public place should offer vegan, vegetarian options. It is a must. Even prison too. Anywhere, any public, any areas must serve vegetarian. In California, California is always more progressive, so this is definitely unprecedented. It passed a law that says by 2024, they will start to limit the population of dairy or cattle. So it won't just be, you can grow and raise as many cattle as you want based on your business need. It won't be the case anymore. from 2024 onwards, they will set a quota, a ceiling, on how many cattle should California, the state, accommodate, because it is one of the biggest source of carbon footprints. In Denmark, it is being explored and discussed right now on imposing a tax on meat because of all the damage that it is doing to the country. Now, this person right here, he issued a statement that says the future of protein is going to be more and more towards plant-based. Now, that statement itself actually is not a surprise, but it's who he is that makes this a surprising statement. He's the CEO of Tyson. And Tyson is one of the top meat producers in the world. Maybe for chicken, I think it's actually the largest. So top 3, if not the largest meat producers in the world, telling publicly that plant-based is going to be the future. More and more protein will be from plant-based. And millennials, this is shocking. Now, I think with parents, and I believe many of the people in the room are parents. Now, nowadays, we don't bring our kids to McDonald's. We don't bring them to, we try to avoid that as much as possible, right? And this latest study is that of all the millennials in the US, only 1 out of 5 has ever had a Big Mac in their life. Not 4 out of 5. It's only 1 out of 5 has ever had a Big Mac. Now, for our generation, I'm pretty sure we all have had a Big Mac, or many Big Macs before. We probably regret it right now. But things are changing because people understand that the way we're eating, from health, from environment, this is not the right way to eat. There are a lot of data that shows different types of behavior change. Meat consumption has been going down. Dairy consumption dropping dramatically over the last few years. Last year alone, this is from Bloomberg, 13% of skim milk, there's a 13% drop in skim milk consumption in 1 year. We're not talking about a brand of skim milk. We're talking about the entire category of skim milk. So what are they switching to? And this is in China. It used to be that 60-something% people frequently visit a Western fast food chain, and 80-something% people would be drinking soda regularly. And this is a report from McKinsey. And this is back in 2012. In 3 years, which is now, on this report is 2015, a drop of 15-20% of the entire population of not consuming fast food regularly or not drinking soda regularly. And of course, the people who are highly concerned about antibiotics and pesticide and all the unnatural thing in food nowadays is rising dramatically. Now, if those things are dropping, then something must be rising. So if dairy is dropping, then dairy alternative, and dairy alternative basically meaning plant-based milk. Now, in Hong Kong or in China, I think a lot of us are very familiar with soy milk. We grow up drinking Vita soy. Soy is something that we're very familiar. But another category of drink that is now becoming a big favorite or a big hit in the market is almond milk. Yes, we know it is very water intensive. Not as intensive as meat, but on the other hand, it's also a great source of nutrition. So right now, 9% of the US, the entire dairy market, now 9% is actually non-dairy or plant-based. It wasn't that long ago that non-dairy was only 1% of the market. Not that long ago, maybe like 9-10 years ago. And that number has gone up tenfold in about 1 decade. And it is expected to double in another 4 to 5 years. So by 2020, which is not that far from now, non-dairy milk is expected to rise to 20% of the entire market in the US. So if you look at some of the brands, I think some of you had Califia almond milk just now, or the cold brew coffee, which is made of almond milk. Califia is one of the fastest growing companies. They have only been around for 4 years. Every year their sales is doubling or more than doubling. And to the point that everywhere you go now, I mean, this is becoming a brand that people look for. And when we brought them to Hong Kong, first brought them to Hong Kong 6 months ago, we had people like literally screaming at Green Common. They were like, oh my God, the Calafia is here. I mean, they got really excited to know that these choices are finally available. So, with all that macro background, what do we do? What is our role in trying to catalyze that change and solving the 4 limitations that I talk about, which is not tasty, not convenient, not enough information, and not nutritious? So the idea of this Green Monday blueprint of Ventures, Foundation, and Green Common is exactly to address the entire supply chain of, and also our decision-making process on how we select our food. Now, Rob had a very good quote just now. He said, with food, of course we can add a lot of tech and IT element to it, but eating is not the same as tweeting. You cannot just download your food and eat it from your smartphone. You still have to go to a restaurant. It is a social event, clearly. You know, most of us, I hope, we eat with people. You know, whether our family, our friends, you know, husband, wife, kids, co-workers, or maybe you don't want to eat with your coworkers. But we eat with people. So food is a social thing, and it is an experience. You know, that's why, for example, my mom's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks, and all of us right now are thinking, you know, where do we take our mom this year? You know, it's about a whole experience. It's not just about getting how many grams of protein or how many grams of, iron that makes sure we are well fed. It's a full experience. So the idea of this blueprint is, first of all, Green Monday is about raising awareness. Why there is a problem with the way we are eating and living, and what type of change can happen. And then we have Green Monday Ventures that work with innovative startups, entrepreneurs that are coming up with products. This is another thing that Richard was saying. You need products. You cannot just tell them, don't eat meat. Then what do they eat? I mean, they cannot just eat tofu every day. That's why people were so scared of vegans in the first place is, you know, they think of us only eating salad and tofu. Yeah, that's what they think. Oh my God, wow. You know, yeah, okay, you can enjoy your meal, I will have my steak. So we are not going to innovate all these products ourselves. That's impossible. So Green Monday Ventures, the idea is let's work with brilliant people who are also trying to solve this mega problem. And then Green Common. With Green Common, what we try to do is we need to redesign, rewire, re-engineer the whole experience. What is the Food 2.0 consumer or patron experience? And how do we create the last mile, which is the supply chain and the distribution network? Even if you have the most amazing, the most tasty product in the world, as I said, you cannot download it on your smartphone. Scalability of food require a supply chain and a distribution network. When you're eating your Beyond Burger, when you're drinking a Calafia, there's a lot of work that goes in between until it reaches you. So how to build that and how to make a very scalable network that can scale very quickly, that is also what Green Common is trying to do. And then finally, and this is a lot of collaboration that we plan on doing with Lighter down the road, is how do we personalize health and diets? Again, in general, eating these things are good for people, but what you need and what he needs are not the same. For the longest time, our selection process of food or things in general is simply based on impulse. On that particular day, I have a craving for this. So even though I know it's not good for me, I'll still buy it or I'll still eat it. And then you feel guilty after that. But can we empower people, particularly using technology, to make wiser, better decisions? So first of all is to reinvent the experience. Why do we need to create Green Common? The idea is, as I said, these products, first of all, are too scattered. There is not one place that can consolidate all of them in terms of, in the restaurant dining or grocery shopping for home cooking. There is no one place that consolidate, particularly all these new inventions and all these new products out there. So we said if we have to rely on existing channels, existing supermarkets, we don't believe the change or the type of change that we hope to see can happen fast enough. And second, each green common to us is almost like a lab. It's a chance for people to re-experience what tasty, healthy green food could be. You know, again, if people think of green food before green common, the only thing they think about is a salad bar. And we know there's so much more to it. So, first of all, it's the concept of creating one destination. The second part, of course, is to make sure these destinations are convenient. Now, after all, another factor that strongly influence what we choose is just how much time we have, right? In the case of people in Hong Kong, people in New York, people in Shanghai, people in LA, I mean, these are very time-pressed people. In fact, I mean, for lawyers, bankers, chances are, I mean, just even the time to think about what to buy or what to eat is too much. They cannot afford that time. So it is very important for us to first have these green commons to be in very central areas. So one of them is in here in Nan Fung Tower, of course, in Nan Fung Place. Another one walking distance to Alexandra House. One in Harbour City, of course, and our first store was in Wan Chai. Now, we are very fortunate that because of this mission, we have been able to work with landlords and developers who also share our vision and say, hey, you know, they want to be a part of this. So rather than looking at us purely as a tenant, we become partners to promote this green lifestyle on this social cause. So that is also why in most of the cases we are not necessarily paying market rents, because we also don't want these healthy food to be unaffordable or unapproachable to the general public. Now, each green common should be an experience. So combining dining and shopping and learning is a must. That's why when you walk into the shop, you will see a lot of data, a lot of signs, a lot of messages that still tell you about the things I told you at the beginning of this speech, but in a much softer way. We don't believe in the approach of blaming, shaming, bashing anyone or anything. Even the biggest carnivore coming in, even for one green meal, we want to celebrate that. Because that is the first step to change. I mean, our goal is not to say, hey, we are better than you, so you know, look at you. You eat such bad diets. No, we want to be as inclusive and as embracing as possible. So every green common needs to be an experience, and we design it that way. And with food, now people have this stigma about vegetarian or plant-based diets. Again, not thinking that these are tasty, nutritious enough. So the other part of experience innovation is on culinary. It's from a dish innovation standpoint, meal innovation standpoint. How do we make this, and how do we make adaptations of these that fit the local crowd? Now, what people in LA eat and what people in Boston, in New York eat are not the same. I mean, even different cities within the US have different flavor. And of course, if we shift them from North America to Asia, we need to do local adaptation. That's why one of our first dish with Green Common was called Hainan Mai Zhao Gai, the Hainan runaway chicken, using the Beyond Meat plant-based chicken, of course. And then the other dish, this is my personal favorite, is Taiwan Lau Yuk Fan. Unfortunately, I haven't eaten the meat version of it for 16 years. So the first thing I told my chef is, I've been craving this for a long time, but can we create a plant-based version? Now, again, with all the innovative products, we can have nutritious, high-protein, plant-based meat substitute that are cleaner, healthier. But these are only the preview, because the hero product is this one. We are so happy, so proud to launch the Beyond Burger. Actually, exactly 2 weeks ago. April 7th was when we launched the Beyond Burger. Now, as I said earlier, you know, we grow up programmed to, you know, eat this fast food. So one of my childhood memory actually was when I celebrate my 11th birthday at McDonald's. My mom threw me a party And that was actually one of the best memories of birthday party. I still remember that. I had a really good time. I think I had 3 filet-o-fish that day. So there's something emotional about between us and food. It's not, again, it's not just about the nutrition. It's not just about the calories. It's, we have cravings. And I do believe no matter how much we crave and we think, we believe in a healthy diet, we still have, in this case, sometimes craving for a burger. And in this case, actually a very meaty or meat-like burger. When I first had this Beyond Burger in the headquarters of Beyond Meat, last January, so it was January of 2016, 16 months ago. I remember that experience very vividly because I had the first bite, and then I took a deep breath. And then I had another bite. I closed my eyes and wow, this is the best thing in the world. Now, Janice Chen, who is not here today, Chen Buiyi, okay, she has been a vegetarian for over 10 years. She had the Beyond Burger, and she's like, oh my God, this is the best invention of the century. Now, clearly, she's someone who is healthy too, but again, these are the emotional ties that we have with food. And Beyond Burger really achieved that. We have so many people who ate it and said, if plant-based food can taste like this, then I don't need to eat meat anymore. We have so many people who make that comment. Moses Chen, Chen Ho, he had this burger last week, and I did not prep him or anything. He just said, wow, David, this is the Tesla of burgers. This is actually a good analogy. I use that analogy on my press release too. I call the Beyond Burger the iPhone or the Tesla of food because it is a game changer. So Alan Seaman, he hasn't eaten beef for 50 years. 50, he hasn't eaten beef for 50 years. He tasted it, and the next thing he did was, he said, you got to bring the Beyond Burger to his steakhouse in Lan Kwai Fong. He has a steakhouse on the 7th floor of California Tower, and we are going to have the Beyond Burger at his steakhouse. Talk about really entering, we're green, but we're entering into the red zone. Deep red. That is the type of disruption that we love to see. I mean, we don't, the people who are already deep green, I mean, they are healthier than me, so they don't need my education. It's the people who may have heard of this, but they just don't know how. And this is the how for them. These are just some of the press coverage. Now, this is something that all of us in Hong Kong should be proud of. Well, part of it we should be proud of, part of it we should be very cautious. Now, first of all, we are the meat capital of the world. Hard to believe, right? On a per capita basis, Hong Kong consumes more meats than any region, any country in the world. Before 2008, the meat capital or the meat country was, well, as you suspect, the United States. But since 2008, this tiny city called Hong Kong, we eat a lot of fei ngao fo wo, beef hot pot. We eat a lot of buffet. We waste a lot of food too. A lot of food. 40% of waste each day in Hong Kong is food waste, which is unforgivable. So we are the meat capital of the world. And when I met Ethan and the Beyond Meat team, the first time I met them was 3 years ago. There were a couple things that I said immediately. I said, I believe Hong Kong and Asia will need your products, and I hope we can be one of the first countries or regions to have your products. And with the work of the Green Monday team, and of course, the presence of Green Common, it is very important that Green Common exists, because Green Common is built for new products like this. We are not built for the old-fashioned lo han zai, vegetarian food. We are built for the next age, the future food. And we believe Beyond Meat and many of these brands that we work with, they are the future. And we want to bring them in as early as possible. So because of the existence of Green Common and because of the existence of Green Monday, the board of Beyond Meat actually said very clearly that they have no plan to expand internationally outside the United States before like 2018 or something like that, because they are too busy keeping up with domestic demand. If you read the news of Beyond Meat within the US, when they put the Beyond Burger on shelf, they're gone in like 1 hour. They're constantly sold out. So just to fulfill demand domestically, they are still keeping up. So, no matter how many inquiries they're getting from, even Canada. Canada doesn't have Beyond Burger right now. So we're getting the Beyond Burger faster than Toronto and Vancouver. But we become the first place, and we become the exception to launch the Beyond Burger. And we tell them that, hey, we are using it in so many local adaptation in order to influence the taste bud of Asians. Because as I said at the beginning, if we're going to change the world, we got to change Asia, because 60-something% of the world's population live in Asia. Now, Beyond Meat is only one example. The other example is Califia. Califia is a leading non-dairy brand, and as I said, their almond milk is tasty, and the sales has been doubling every year. Now, in order to introduce that, Green Common again plays a role, not just as a destination for them, but with our bistro, with our deli, we say, how can we educate consumers that non-dairy is equally, if not better, than dairy? So we start creating new drinks from their products. So besides you can choose coffee with almond milk, of course, we came up with some really appealing drinks. This is actually the #1 bestseller at Green Common in Harbor City right now. And this is the sweet purple potato latte. 紫薯 latte. Now, I think a lot of us are familiar with purple sweet potato, but to use it in a drink and also in such an appealing, attractive looking drink is the first time. So people try it, and first of all, the appeal itself is there. And then second, we tell them, this is from almond milk. And they're all very shocked and say, wow, from a fragrance, from a taste standpoint, it just tastes awesome. So that is how we then bring people into the world of non-dairy and say, go try this. So Califia, Daya, these are all market-leading brands in North America. But then Green Common itself, right now we're only 4 stores, and even if we expand to 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, it is still too slow to change Hong Kong, let alone Asia. So to me, actually, every Green Common is more like an experience, a little bit like the Apple Store. You don't just buy your iPhone from Apple Store, right? You can get it online. You can get it at many of the mobile service providers. You can get it at Fortress, at Broadway. So same thing here. We say in order to accelerate these great products into the market for more and more people to taste and to adopt, we need to have a distribution network to work with existing food service and restaurant providers and also with supermarkets. So later, we have Liam, the CEO of Pizza Express, and he will tell you a lot of experience and also hard data of how they are using Beyond Meat in their dishes and achieving great success. And this is our global sourcing network. Now, I cannot do all this by myself, so definitely with Jenny and the Green Monday, Green Common team, a big part of bringing the best products and the most innovative brands from around the world to Hong Kong. And very soon, Asia too. Now, the reason why these brands love working with us is that we are simply their turnkey solution. Beyond Meat hasn't spent a dime of marketing or business development expense in Hong Kong. But Beyond Meat is becoming a name that a lot of people, not just they know, but they're actually consuming their product, their customers right now. And that is the amazing synergy of this platform. Now, we haven't spent a lot of money promoting Beyond Meats either. It's because we have created this network, this culture, that people want to eat greener. They are looking for the next thing. And the moment when we tell them, they are excited. So that is the unique synergy of this platform. We are not spending, like someone just asked me yesterday, what is our marketing budget for the Beyond Burger? Was that Rob, what did you ask me? Or someone asked me, what is our marketing dollar for the Beyond Burger? He asked, do you put in 100,000 US or 50,000 US? I say 50,000 US? We spend less than 10,000 Hong Kong. Seriously, we did not spend more than $10,000 Hong Kong to promote the Beyond Burger. But it is now has been tasted by hundreds of media members, celebrities. It's because this is the culture that is kind of what you said earlier, Rob said earlier, is, you know, people don't know what they want until you show them. And when you show them, they are all eager to try. And once they try it, it tastes good, then they obviously spread it to their friends. So becoming that turnkey partner to all these companies and creating this platform is what we're striving to become. We need to accelerate the change. Because if all these problems that we talked about earlier are so pressing, we must also create the solution fast enough. And we have no plan to do this purely on our own. This is actually not possible to do it on our own. So one of the questions that we got earlier when we first opened Green Common was someone asked us, are we trying to be the future Park and Shop? I say, no. No. We will maybe open a few in Hong Kong and that's it. And then what are you doing, David? I say, well, you will see. And the idea is if we want to create impact, we must leverage existing resources. People who do things much better than we do. We are looking into China. We're looking to Singapore. We have people in Singapore here today. And every other day, you know, someone is asking us to open a Green Common in their city or in their country. But we got to find local partners in order to spread this impact as fast as possible. So this is one of the way to make that happen is the distribution network. Now, besides sourcing from abroad, of course, we can also innovate our own products. So I think some of you also had the cold-pressed juice. Now, our next speaker, Edward, will be telling you a lot about the magic in that bottle of cold-pressed juice. So I'll leave it to the expert to share with you on that. But we're very proud to work with Invo, definitely an expert and also a leader in this field, to be working with Green Common to launch this collaboration juice and many other products. Now, one more exciting thing that I haven't put here is, as much as we are adopting, you know, the Beyond Meats or the Gardeins, that these are the new plant-based meat substitute, at the end, they are still very Western-driven. You know, these are, you know, for example, beef and chicken, these are obviously very, the type of meats that Americans consume the most. But in Asia, actually, neither beef nor chicken is the number one meat, number one consumed meat. I think we all know, right, in Asia, what is the number one consumed meat? It's actually pork. So the next innovation, and another company that we are going to incubate is a meat analog company, a plant-based meat company that will focus on pork, because that actually is the biggest consumed meat in Asia. Now, for us, a lot of us eat, you know, well, not me, but Asians eat, you know, pork chop, different types of pork chop, various flavor, various cuisine. And how can we create different versions that can replace and create a better version? Now, the key here is not just replacing, but a better product. A lot of people who eat the Beyond Burger, you know, at the end they say, wow, this is really close to the real thing. But they also notice that it is actually better than the real thing. Getting close to the real thing is not our goal. It's creating a better product. They realize that after eating, you know, 20 grams of protein, which of course is good enough for anyone, they don't feel stuffed. It is not greasy. You know, you don't feel like you are wasting a lot of energy to digest the burger. I have a photographer, like a pretty big guy. He ate the Beyond Burger. I asked him, like 30 minutes later, I asked him, what do you feel? He's like, I feel light. Like, if you eat a real quarter pounder, how can you possibly feel light? You feel stuffed. And if you go back to your, you know, to the office, you will be in a food coma, because all the energy is used to digest the meat. So, not just replacing meat, but better product. And in terms of the green blue ocean, now I'm just giving, of course I don't know how much we can do, but this is a space that everyone should be getting into, and we are talking about feeding 7 billion people, which of course is also the opportunity, the business opportunity of 7 billion. We are talking about health. We are talking about meal plan. We are talking about weight loss. We are talking about online, offline. I mean, there's so many intersections. How can there not be opportunities and possibilities for growth, for innovation? And I show this chart not to show you where Green Common will be. We are only a tiny part of that. I'll show you this chart because this is the space that we should all think about to get into. This green-blue ocean, we can all be a part of that. And to me, as an entrepreneur, I just cannot find something that's more rewarding than growing a mission-driven business that you know every minute when someone comes in to buy something, you are helping them and you are helping the planet. It's very different from the old model of making money, working very hard to make money, and then maybe work very hard to donate money. I always find that to be a little bit schizophrenic. Can we do good and do well at the same time? And by the way, for a good cause to be sustainable, you do need to be a business. Because with not-for-profit, one of the biggest limitations of not-for-profit actually is 6 months, 8 months out of a year, what are you doing? You're not actually doing what you said you need to do, but you're doing fundraising. 6 months out of a year. I sit on the committee, I sit on the board of multiple NGOs, including my own family's charity foundation. And, you know, every year, 4 months, 6 months, focus on how to, prepare a gala dinner or fundraising campaign, which is different from what they set out to do, whatever cause that is, helping elderly, helping underprivileged. So I do believe doing good and doing well, not only is it a promised land or a utopia, but also for any good causes, it is also the most sustainable way to go. And in terms of business model, people ask us, what do you mean green blue ocean? You're trying to create a retail chain? I say no, retail chain is just the experience, it's the showcase, it's the Apple store. Okay? These are all the possibilities that a Green Common can do. This goes back to day one, 5 years ago, when we start Green Monday, and many, many people, first of all, questioned the campaign, and second, they thought this is just a campaign. And we said no. This is going to be a social enterprise group, a group of companies that set out to catalyst the change for the future. And even here, to me, it's only a snapshot, a small snapshot of that. There are so many things that even I don't know about the potential of what we can do. And we are learning on a daily basis. And that's why every day or every trip, when I make to China, to US, to different parts of the world, I meet brilliant minds and thought leaders, such as many of them who are speaking today. I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly thinking, how can we accelerate that change in our part of the world? So I urge you and I invite all of you to all join the mission to make change happen and to make green common. Thank you.